Hello. Um, I want to start out by sending my condolences to all those people who have suffered from the shooting that just happened recently. I believe it's in Colorado, but it was specifically at a gay bar. I want to send my condolences to all the victims and their families and friends, and I'm really sorry that's happened. I pray that excuse me. I pray that God can comfort you, and I pray in the midst of that, I pray you'll be able to find some faith in Him and be able to see His love. I pray He'll guide you in all truth, and I pray that you'll be able to see truth and be able to see love and peace from Him. And I pray the same for all victims who suffered from any shootings. Sorry. But yeah, I just want to say that first before I say anything else. Regardless of the political party or whatever the person claims to be, it is wrong and it's immoral to just go and shoot, people like, to hurt people like that. It's wrong to do that. And it's also wrong when you got people who want to politicize stories like that. And again, I don't care, if it's right wing, left wing, religious or non-religious, it is wrong to politicize, stuff like that. We need to send our prayers, our condolences, and try to help in any way we can, regardless, what group they claim to belong to, as long as they're not criminals and they haven't, gone up, and as long as they haven't hurt anybody, it shouldn't matter to us, including as Christians, what group they claim to belong to. We should be willing to send prayers and send some help and, lend a helping hand if we can. But I just find it sick and also immoral when you get people who just want to politicize stories like that to point the finger at the other side. And I'm not saying this to be biased, but I am saying this because it is true. Unfortunately, you see people on the leftist Democrats, and MSM specifically, do that more than anybody else. They love to take stories like that and jump the gun and love to say, oh, it was a conservative who did this, and someone say, oh, it was a Christian who did it, without receiving any facts from the investigations yet. They just jump the gun and make those claims. And then as soon as they find that the shooter was not who they hoped to be, they kill the story. They just drop it. They just either solely just let it die and go away, or they just drop it. And even when stories come out of other shootings happen, which they refuse to mention, and the gunman is of someone that goes against their personal narrative, they don't speak about. Like, never mind. I'm not gonna be like the leftists to make this racial. But I find it sick and despicable. And it just makes me wonder how many times victims of shootings and their families, it just makes me wonder how they die, how much they die inside when they find people politicizing their story, taking advantage of their story just to pin blame on the other side, just to incite hate on the other side. It just makes me wonder how they die inside, because it tells them, wow, They don't care about me after all. They don't care that I've suffered from this. They don't care that my son suffered from this. They don't care that my daughter died. They don't care that my friend died. They don't care that my wife died or that my husband died. That they don't care about any of that. They just care about taking advantage of us to use us as political pawns. It's just messed up. And it's really sick. I mean, can't you just leave them alone? Leave them alone. Let them grieve. Let them have time to just grieve and figure things out. I mean, tell the story, yes, but be truthful about it. Don't make them political pawns. Just don't do that. Leave them alone. But no. They love to take stories like that and say, oh, it's a Trump supporter. Oh, it's a Christian. Come to find out, wait. The guy says he's non-binary. And you had a woman from CNN say, I just don't know what to say about that. You don't know what to say about that because you're sad that gunman did not go with your narrative. And you don't pity those people who suffered. You just pity yourself for being wrong. I'm a Christian conservative. And I don't agree with LGBT lifestyle, but I would never advocate for someone to go at a gay bar and shoot them. I would never agree with that, and I would never advocate for it because they're still human beings. And just because I disagree with their lifestyle doesn't mean, they can't live their lives. Because at the end of the day, God gave them free will, and that's between them and God. And also, I hope and pray they do find faith and love in God for different reasons. One, for the soul's sake, and another big reason is because, unfortunately, thankfully not all, but unfortunately, have been hurt as children. Somebody touched them, and that played a role. So I also pray that they'll find peace as well and be healed from that, like God healed me from it. So no, I don't wish ill will on them. I don't. I don't wish hell on them or ill will on them at all. I want them to be able to find love and peace in God, but that's between them and God. But just because I disagree with their lifestyle doesn't mean I would ever advocate for them to be hurt. I mean, Jesus teaches us Christians to love your enemies and to bless and to love those and pray for those who persecute and hurt us. That's what he's taught. And a lot of conservatives a lot of Christian conservatives and other conservatives, feel that way. And I just find it just terrible that they politicize stories like this for a bunch of reasons. Because again, it doesn't help the victims; it only hurts them, and it can only put them in a pit of depression, or because you don't care about me at all. And I also feel bad for LGBT conservatives. Yes, they exist, and yes, they have every right to be conservative. It hurt. I mean, to call them and say, "Oh, you conservatives wanted this." No, they didn't. And you're despicable for saying that. Excuse me a second. Sorry about that. I had to step outside for a second, and someone had to use it. I'm sitting in the bathroom, in case you didn't notice already. But Anyway, again, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. It's just despicable to take stories like this and to point to the other side and say it's all their fault without having any facts at all. And then just instead, I mean, can't you for once just say, okay, we jumped the gun, we're sorry? Can't you just do that? But no, you'd rather save face by dropping the story altogether. And again, I just think it just makes the victims die a little inside once they realize that's what happened. Because again, it shows that you guys don't care about them. For once, can't you just at least say, okay, listen, we're sorry that we, jumped the gun on this and said all these things. We shouldn't make this about politics. We shouldn't make it about this or that. We should just make it about the victims. Can't you just for once say that? Because if you had any morals at all, that's what you would do. Admit to your fault and move on. But stuff like this, and I'm sorry, I'm just going to go back to what I was talking about, the concerns at LGTB. I just find it also wrong, they want to point a finger even at the LGTB people who are conservative and say, oh, they incited this violence in LGTB people. Because when you lump a whole group, you're including them as well. And I know for a fact the LGBT conservatives wouldn't advocate for that. I mean, just because you disagree with a group on this or that, it doesn't mean just because you have certain disagreements on some things, it doesn't mean you just advocate for them to get hurt. I mean, I have cousins who are atheists and who are also, some are also part of the LGBT community, and even though we disagree on some things, we still love each other at the end of the day. Never once has any of them ever came up to me and said that I'm a Christian, that I'm a homophobe or this or that because I'm a Christian. And nor have I ever said to them that they should go to hell or blah blah. The most I ever done was told them the truth of how God feels about sin according to according to what He says in the Bible. But never once have I tried to act hateful toward them, and they don't act hateful toward me. We just simply agree to disagree, leave it alone, and we're still able to sit down and eat together peacefully and in love. But when you got people who just want to automatically falsely accuse the other side based on lies to incite hate, because ultimately that's what they're doing. They're taking advantage of poor victims and their stories to incite hate. And I'm sorry, and I'm not saying this to be biased or anything, but I'm only saying this because it's true. The left is more guilty of that than anybody. And especially lately, because they did the same thing when it came to the case of Paul Pelosi. They automatically say, oh, that guy's a Trump supporter, conservative, blah, blah, blah. And come to find out, he was a BLM supporting LGBT person leftist. Excuse me again. Sorry about that, but anyway, it turns out the guy was just, he was a leftist. But the thing is, even if the guy that attacked Paul Pelosi or the shooter that recently attacked those people at gay bar, even if it turned out that they claimed to be a conservative or Christian, many of us who are Christians and many conservatives would have condemned what they've done. Many of us would say, no, that person does not represent us. And if that person would say that you claim to be Christian, no, he doesn't represent Christianity, he does not represent the Lord, and he does not represent us Christians, because that is the exact opposite of what Christ teaches. That is the exact opposite of what Jehovah and Holy Spirit teaches. But when you take people who want to take those stories and automatically point the finger without having any facts at all, they just want to throw a narrative. You know who it makes me think of? It makes me think of Haman. It makes me think of Hitler, and it makes me think of Nero. Haman was offended by one Jew because the Jewish person named Mordecai hurt Haman's ego by refusing to bow to him. So Haman decided that he was going to lie to the king, falsely accuse, the Jews of this and that, so he can try to kill all of them. Kill all of them just because he was offended by one Jewish man. But it didn't work out for him in the end, because the Lord protected Israel through a woman named Esther. And through Mordecai too. Nero, if you don't know who Nero is, you need to look up Roman history. For a little while, from what I understand from reading the book, Person of Interest by J.C. Wallace, which I highly recommend. For a little while, Rome didn't seem to have much of an issue with Christianity, as long as, they kept the peace in Rome. But Nero didn't like Christians, so he decided to set Rome on fire and then falsely accuse Christians of doing it. And therefore persecution of Christians started happening, and it got to the point to where Christians were being used as torches in Nero's garden, and it was thrown to wild animals. All because Nero personally didn't like Christians, and he threw out a lie. Hitler had to convince Germany that all the Jews had to be exterminated. How did he do it? Through Darwinism. Wait, I thought he was a Christian. No. Even if Hitler did claim to be a Christian, he was all for Darwin. And Darwinism is the exact opposite of Christianity. Also, even if Hitler did claim to be a Christian, his actions clearly proven that he wasn't. Because if he was a Christian, he would have never have done what he did, especially to the Jews, because Romans 11 specifically says that Christians are not to boast against the children of Israel. We're not to boast against the Jews of the Hebrews. We are not to boast ourselves against them. So if Hitler was a Christian, he would not have been what he was. He would have been the exact opposite. But when I see, people, again, politicizing shootings and stuff like that just to incite hatred on the side they don't like, they're not acting much different. They're not acting much different than Nero or Hitler or Haman. They're not acting much different than them. It is wrong. I mean, those shootings should not have happened. And they definitely should not be politicized. And Rourke, he lost 3 times. And you want to know why he did? Because he politicized deaths of kids, of students out of school, of teenagers. He decided to disrupt the meeting with the parents over a shooting that happened at a school to throw his anti-gun rhetoric. He disrespected the students that suffered from it. He disrespected the parents, and he questions why they didn't want him to run in their district. If you're going to disrespect them when it comes to tragedies like that, especially when you're considering minors and teens and kids, how can they ever expect you to have any respect for them in any regard? Or have any care for them in any regard? Because there's a very good chance that you wouldn't. So no, they rejected you, Rourke, because you did not really care about what happened to those to them. You just cared about your narrative. And we only say that because you proved that through your actions. I'm not trying to falsely accuse you or anything, but you've shown that through your actions when you disrespected the parents, when you walked in that building with your anti-gun rhetoric. You couldn't just walked in there and said, "Look, I'm so sorry this happened to you," and looked at the other political leader to say, "Hey, I want to work with you when it comes to situations like this. I am not here to politicize this. I want to take care of this problem, and I want to take care of it with you. Let's see what we can do." That would have been a far better thing for you to do than for you just to bust on in there and say and throw your anti-gun rhetoric. That was not the time, and it was not the place. You could have at least waited, given the families time to grieve, let them figure out. You could have at least waited, given them some time, and then talk about that. But no, you couldn't wait to politicize what happened. Just like CNN, MSM, and some political leftists just could not wait to politicize what happened to those people that suffered the shooting at the gay bar. They just couldn't wait, and it's despicable. I think I said all I needed to say on this. But again, my condolences, my prayers to all those who suffer from shootings. The people who suffered at the shooting at the gay bar, all those students and their family, all of them, the LGBT people who ever suffer from shooting gay bar, the students that suffer from shootings at schools, Black people and church people and other people who suffer from any kind of shootings that's happened here. Thoughts and prayers for all of you. And I hope, God can heal you from it. And I hope in the midst of it, He'll be able to guide you in truth and wisdom and peace and love. I hope that for you. But just so you know, despite what the people left try to say, I am a Christian conservative, and I do not advocate, and I would not advocate for your hurt. And I promise I'm telling you 100% truth when I said that I would never do that. And I'm so sorry that's happened to you. And I hope that that the gunman, that justice will be served. I hope the gunman would be in jail for a very long time. God help us.